everybody, to the 11th episode of the Den Discussions. Today, I'm joined by educational advisor Loren Overbo. Loren, thank you for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Nico.
Of course. And before we get started, I need to throw out a little plug to our sponsor, the Putt Cup. The Putt Cup improves your short game. It's a full-size coffee mug with the flat edge surface right there. You can see it, Loren. Perfect for putting into, so enjoy a cup of joe and then sink a putt. Loren, we've seen your basketball skills, and then now we need to see your golf skills. We need to get you one of these putt cups.
Oh, Nico, I can kill it at miniature golf. That's as far as my skills go.
Well, this will definitely help with your mini golf game.
Yes.
All right, Loren, let's jump right into it. Why don't you introduce yourself and tell us about your time at RCC?
Hi, everyone. My name is Loren Overbo. I am one of the 2 educational advisors at RCC for the athletics department. My time at RCC goes pretty far back. I actually was a student at RCC right out of high school, graduated from Riverside Poly and came right over to play water polo and swim. So I was an athlete, transferred, worked a few years, and then the opportunity came back to work as an advisor for student athletes, which has always been a goal of mine. So I came back about 5 years ago, and I have been working with student athletes ever since.
Perfect. Yeah, I know your Riverside City College roots run deep. So why don't we get into that question right here? You talked about, playing at RCC and then transferring. Describe your time playing at RCC and how you transferred to Cal State Northridge, how the transfer process went, and how different it was playing at a 2-year versus a 4-year.
Gotcha. So I graduating high school, I graduated young, graduated at 17, and I academically could have transferred, but it was something I just wasn't as comfortable with, where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do. So RCC was a perfect opportunity for me to develop more as a player, to, advance my skills to the collegiate level, as well as work academically, figure out what I wanted to major in and what I wanted to do. At the time, Coach Dave Almquist, who is well respected within the water polo world, had taken over coaching women's water polo at RCC. And Coach Finfrock, who is the current head coach, was the assistant coach who had also coached me for a short time in high school. So it was a great fit to come in and play. And it was my best years playing. Under Coach Almquist and Coach Finfrock, it was a different type of coaching style, one that really let players flourish in their abilities. So rather than trying to fit players into a certain scheme or a certain style, they let us really fit into what our best skills were. So it really helped me advance and grow into a better player. And it was great. We had fun, we traveled, we played, but we still had, a little bit more freedom to be college students. And that was one of the biggest changes that most students will see when you transfer into NCAA. Their commitment is there, but it is on a much more magnified level. You have practice in the morning, you have school, all of your days are accounted for. So that's where I loved my time at RCC, because I got to play, but there was still a little bit more of a more relaxed feel where you had a little more fun. So I played, I had an opportunity to transfer to Cal State Northridge, which at the time was in water polo had fewer schools. So we were in a conference that played against USC, UCLA, Stanford. So we're a smaller school, but in a very strong conference. So it was a great fit that my coaches helped me find of a school where I could go in and have an immediate impact and play. Because transferring as a junior college athlete, that is one of the challenges. You go in, you're new. So in a way, you're kind of like a recruit, a freshman, but you're also a junior. You're older, you've played more. So you have to find that footing where it's, where can I go and play and not have to take time to sit and learn everything, because by then you can be a senior. So Northridge was a great fit where I got to go, immediately get in and play, get minutes, and really enjoy myself. And so I signed early, continued to play, and was able to transfer over and really just have fun. In the water polo world, and especially women's water polo, it's a different type of environment, different type of budget. So that's definitely something that I always will talk to our students about now, where the school you're going to, in a way, where does your sport fall? What does that look like? Travel, accommodations, different things. So that was something that I enjoyed. We were on the smaller side, but at the time, there was nothing better than getting to go play the top athletes in your sport. Kind of knew you weren't going to win, but you still got to go. You still got to play. You still got to travel and really experience all of that. As a student, I found at RCC that I really enjoyed business courses, economics courses, which I didn't expect, but I did well in them. So that's what I transferred over as an econ major. I was able to go in with my general ed completed, with my prerequisites done, and move right into my upper division. But at that time, that help came from my coach. So there wasn't advisors in the same way to help student athletes like what Jackie and I do now. But I was very fortunate to have coaches that were very experienced and helped and guided us. So we made those choices and were able to transfer. So I look back and I think now we spend so much time talking about NCAA rules, transfer rules. I kind of don't even remember knowing that much about it. It was my coach who helped me and really worked that out for me. But I transferred over, was able to play. I graduated in 2 years. And then from there, I started working in for college advisement at private institutions. And so that's what led me, because I knew I always wanted to work with athletes, but I went and got experience outside and then came back. That's one thing you realize when you graduate, and you may have seen too, Nico, when you graduate, you get into the working world, you're working with non-athletes, it is different. Different strengths, different skills. And you're like, you know what, I fit in with these types of people. And I enjoyed working with athletes. I enjoyed the environment. So that was a goal of mine for a long time, to come back.
Right. And, you mentioned a lot of great points right there. And one is, student athletes are built a little bit differently. And sometimes you need to cater to their specific needs, whether they're coming to the 2-year university to, further their education and move on to a 4-year, or just come here for 1 year and then transfer that division. And I think you and Jackie really understand the nature of that beast very well. And that's pretty much what the Athletic Learning Center is focused on, is getting those 2-year athletes here enrolled in classes and moving on to a 4-year. You're the expert in this field. Describe what the Athletic Learning Center really means, what its purpose is, and how it really came about at Riverside City College.
Gotcha. So the Athletic Learning Center is one of the many student engagement centers on campus. Ours specifically is catered to athletics. There are centers that focus on academic pathways, other programs, but ours is set up so it's one central place where a student athlete can come in and get help. There's areas that Jacqueline and I will handle ourselves. So academically, tutoring, homework, just different school-related items. And then there's areas like financial aid, Veterans Affairs, different resources that we will help to direct the student to. But the main part is, as a student athlete, really in our goals, whatever's coming up, whatever's happening, you have one place you can come in and ask for help, and we will help either ourselves or we'll help direct you to who's there. The other great benefit is it was created to have an actual center. So we have a large area with computers set up, different seating areas, study areas that students can come into during any time of the year, if it's breaks in between classes, waiting for practice, but it's in a way you can think like a homeroom or a team room, but it's not just for one team, it's for all of our students. The greatest thing we see in the Athletic Learning Center is our student athletes interacting with athletes on other teams. So it's a general central place similar to the athletic training office, where you can come in and interact with students on other sports, where oftentimes athletes don't interact with other sports as much because you're in your area, your practice, your schedule, but they're able to intermix. They can talk about classes, find other people that are in their same classes. And that's something that I found as an athlete is important, because sometimes you can get so caught up within your own team, within your own small, group, that it gives you a little bit of a break, a step away. You can take a breath. You're not worried about, what's happening at practice or your teammate. You can step away from that and focus on school and connect with people in a different way. But our engagement center has moved a few times. When I first started, it was in a different area, and our main goal was to get it closer to the students. So we are now located in the gym. So we're centrally located. We've grown. We have more technology available. We have great support from our Tiger backers. We now have really common textbooks available, calculators. So what we try to do is bring the resources that we hear from our direct student feedback that they need and make those more readily available to be shared with all of the athletes.
Yeah, it's truly a one-stop shop for all these student athletes. You mentioned every major aspect of why it is so important. And when I was a student athlete, when you were a student athlete, we didn't have anything like this. I mean, this is a valuable resource. I'm sure it was kind of the same for you, Loren, when you stepped foot on campus. Head coach tossed you a catalog with classes and said, "Hey, here you go, figure it out." We had a den discussion with the Student Athlete Advisory Council 2 days ago and told them the same thing. And they echoed what you said. It's a valuable resource, and they're very, very grateful for you and what it provides to them. And now I'm curious to hear, if I'm an incoming student athlete now, and I need to make sure that I'm enrolled in all these proper classes to become eligible, what does an appointment look like with step by step in order to make sure that I'm eligible and ready to go both on the field and in the classroom?
Gotcha. So ideally, our relationship will start when the student is deciding if they want to come to RCC. So it can be more the recruitment process. We meet with a lot of high school students. A lot of parents will come in because they're coming in to see what is this going to look like. So that's the biggest part, is the sooner you can come in and talk with us, the better. RCC application is open many, many months before we'll even start school. So we deal with a lot of seniors that will already apply. And the great thing we always tell them is, if you're not sure, apply, get your ID number, get started. Because if you make a different choice later, there's no harm in having that done, but you're planning ahead. And so we really like to talk with our students and say, what is your goal? Because while they all are athletes, there's very different goals. Some do want to transfer, some don't. They just want to play while they're here, extend their career a little bit, and then move on academically. We have a lot that also want to play and then move into different trades, police, fire, paramedic, all these different areas. And that's the biggest thing that we always want our students to know, is that while we do have a lot of students that transfer athletically, that's not just what we do. We can help students on all different paths. So finding out what the student's goal is, but also letting them know, whenever we ask, everyone kind of gets a little nervous. They're like, I'm not sure, but it's like, it's okay, it can change. We just want to know what you're thinking. And then from that point, we really start to say, okay, if you want to transfer athletically, then there's a lot of consideration that has to go into NCAA rules. And that's where Jackie and I will help educate them on the rules, because they're complicated and not everyone knows them. But the great thing is you have us to kind of guide you along the way. And so we'll plan what their timeline is, what they want to accomplish. And some students will tell me absolutely, like, I want to go to this school. Or some say, I want to go West Coast. Or some say, I want to go where it's not cold. We hear the funniest, the funniest things. But everyone has their own wants. So it's, how do we plan for those? And what's different about our job than working with just a student who wants to transfer athletically is our students they can't really say, I want to go to this school for this major if you want to play, because you don't know what school is going to come recruit you. You don't know what the offer is going to look like. And oftentimes you might get a great offer you never expected. When I was planning to play and transfer, I had never thought of Cal State Northridge. I never expected that. We help them plan for a specific item, but then also make sure we have some backup plans. Like, okay, if a Cal State comes in, if a UC, if a school from certain conferences based on conference rules per sport, we try to help educate them and learn about that. And so that's our first part. But for a lot of freshmen who aren't sure, we're still working on general ed. That's the same for everyone. So we start planning, working on that. My biggest tip would be, if you're not sure, if you don't understand, because it's a whole new process, don't hesitate to ask. You have a whole staff of us in the athletics department, as well as outreach and different departments on campus, who are set to help new students know this process. And if you don't ask, you can kind of get stuck. And oftentimes students just maybe are a little embarrassed or aren't sure or don't want to have to bug a coach recruiting them, but it's okay. You know what I mean? It's okay to just ask a question, send an email. Some of my favorite meetings I have are when students ask to meet with me and they say, I just want to make sure I have the right classes. Because then I know they're really planning ahead and they're caring. And that's where we're available to book meetings with Monday through Friday. And students can book their own meetings with Jackie and I. Right now, in our current environment, it's either over phone or over Zoom, but we set that up so they can come in and meet. If they want to go over NCAA, transfer, an issue in class, it's there. But we always start with, what's your goal? What do you think you want to do? If you're not sure, what's your backup plan? Or what's your other idea? And then we just take it one semester at a time to keep planning.
It's a fluid world too. You just said it. You could have a goal coming in freshman year, and then your sophomore year you have a full ride to Texas Tech or UCLA. It's not a place where you didn't really even expect to go.
Yes.
And I'm curious to understand too, what's the biggest challenge that these student athletes face, especially right now, and how have you adapted to those challenges? Because for people who don't know, we have 19 programs that make up 600 student athletes, and you and Jackie are splitting them down the middle. So it's a lot of work. It's a heavy workload. How do you manage all of that, and how have you been able to stay with the changes and adapt to those needs of the student athlete?
Gotcha. The first thing I say is it's a lot. 19 programs, over 600 athletes. One big thing for Jackie and I is, while a student's playing career may end, if they're still a student, we're still working with them. So we often end up working with much larger groups than the active athletes, because if you came and you're a student and you're a Tiger and you played, you're always one of us. So we'll always be there to help you. But the biggest thing is, we wouldn't be able to do what we do without the support and the coordination of our coaching staff. Each of our programs has great staff. They all really have a point person that we can go to for academic items, but that's the coordination that we go through, is, staying up to date. It's sometimes even I'll have to take a minute and say, okay, wait, I got to call a coach and check, because the rules vary by sport. They vary by conference. So it gets so detailed that we have to rely on those resources to keep us educated and help educate the students. So that's a big part of it, is supporting the coaches supporting us, because that is a partnership to accomplish what we do. And that's the biggest part. We transfer out over 100 student athletes on scholarship a year, and those go to more conferences and more schools every year. Some schools that it's the first time I may have heard of them, or the student may have heard of them, but it's there. So it's watching all of those rules. And we really had to adjust. We were really fortunate. Our center is centrally located. So all day long, we had students coming in and out when we were on campus, just popping in, quick questions, big questions. And it was such a normal environment for us. So when we all had to leave campus, it was an adjustment. We were really quick with ours. Within a few days, we were back up, offering full Zoom and phone appointments. So it's been different, but it's also been surprisingly very successful. For students who are so easy to walk in, now they all know how. They book an appointment with me and Jackie, they meet us. It's kind of funny. We talk to them, and sometimes I'm like, they're working or they're working out or they're somewhere else, but we get to see them in their COVID life, we'll say, where they are. And so we've just adapted. And we've had to really get them on board and us on board to get so much more advanced technologically. Everything we meet with, we email them notes or links or references, and that's really been a great advancement versus just standing in front of them and saying it and then walking them over to the computer. So really that follow up in that direction, but our students have done an amazing job, owning those responsibilities and taking care of it. But that's been a big change for us. And we just get used to talking to everybody over Zoom now.
It's the new lifestyle, and you and Jackie are the most adaptive. I mean, you guys are very helpful, and obviously you just touched on how you've been adjusting to numerous rules and regulations and how conferences are changing the rules to conferences. So it's hard work and it's noticed department wide. So good work. I just touched on the adaptiveness. You've had to adapt right when you started working at RCC. I mean, you were a student athlete, and then you transitioned into being, the colleagues of some people that, that coached you, Doug Finfrock being one. How was that transition from being a student athlete at RCC to becoming an employee at RCC?
Oh, it was, so I would say my benefit was I had a few years away. So I played, I understood it, and then coming back, it was a little different. For all of our athletes out there, you can think of it like you're so used to your coach athlete relationship that now you come back and you're in the same meetings. So that's the part that's kind of, that was kind of interesting. I would say I had some years away, so it was able to come back, really work with them and say you're always going to have a special relationship with your coach. They're always going to know more about you, be able to, tease you a little bit. And, I can joke with them about how long we've known each other. So that does add always a little bit of camaraderie to it. But it was more of coming in and showing, and this was for the whole department, our athletes have been managed by their coaches for so long. And that's a really, it's a really strong relationship. Our coaches are very protective of their athletes. So I think coming in and developing a relationship with Coach Finfrock and knowing how, in a way, you have to prove yourself, like, I'm here, I know what I'm doing, I'm gonna do right by our athletes, they're going to be well taken care of. That helped me develop those strong relationships with the rest of our coaches. Because what we developed with this program was letting someone else in to that relationship who had been just coach athlete for a long time. And there was some nervousness about it. You don't want someone to come in and advise or cause an issue, but really showing the coaches. And I think my relationship with Doug and the success we had with the women's water polo players helped the other coaches see, like, we're here to support you. We're here to help. We're not going to be causing any issues, or because with advisement across the board, it can get hard if there's multiple opinions coming in. And that's the one thing we really work hard with in our department, is that the students know, well, I may answer something a little differently than your coach or that Jackie. We're all looking at the same thing. We're working towards the same goal, but really having that uniform message. And so when coming in, when working with Doug and women's water polo, it was just being able to take the time to show, this is what I'm recommending, this is why, this is our goal, and really explaining it so that he felt comfortable and the rest of our coaches feel comfortable knowing that we are, advising our students in the best way.
And all those coaches feel comfortable with you leading their educational journey. I can second all of their thoughts. You guys have been doing a fantastic job. And, it's not only you down there, it's Jackie. And, Jackie, for those who don't know, Loren and Jackie are sisters. Jackie was an intern with us, I think 2 years ago.
Yeah, I can't even remember now.
I know, it seems like yesterday she was, and now she's a full-time employee with us. How has it been working alongside your sister in the Athletic Learning Center? How's that environment been?
It's great. So I would say it does, it works well with our personalities, because how we have different strengths. And so we can relate well. And I know there's certain things students will go to Jackie for, certain things for me. The biggest part, I think, is our background. Jackie as well also played water polo for Doug. But Jackie had a different path than I did. She came in a freshman, decided, she wasn't sure if she wanted to play, and didn't play her freshman year. and then realized afterward, I do want to play. Came back her sophomore year, played 2 years, and then transferred over to Cal Baptist and played there. So it's great because we can talk about it from two different experiences, two different transfer schools, very different college experiences. And then she came into us right from college. So I actually, that was thinking how it's different for me coming back to working with Doug to what it would have been like for her, because she came in as an intern and did a great job with us, spent a lot of time working with students. She was able to relate to them. So, you know, we always joke now, I'm like, she gets what they're talking about. And I'm like the old person in the room, like, what? So I get to tell them how I registered at RCC over the phone, not like on the website. So that really worked well. I think it gave a great balance to the center, because we complement one another in that way, where I can be, you know, I work with them a lot more on, with my sports, it gets a lot more into the rules, into maybe being a little sterner with them, like, this is what it has to be, this is the choice. And then Jacqueline's able to work with them on more of their development, career-wise, you know, really how they're doing, and even down to the simple things when they come in and ask questions, if it's about a written homework, something like that, I'm like, you need to take that to Jackie. That's her area, but I can really help you on math. So it works well. I enjoy working with her. You know, it was just kind of crazy how it ended up that way, where she's there with us, was able to intern with us and come in and work, but it's something that we both enjoy. And I think the students enjoy, you know, how great we work well together, because they can see it, and then they can work between the two of us, and we know what's happening. I can step in, she can step in, and really just have the same goal. And then we have different paths, so then we can relate and share those stories with students in different ways.
Well, we love it. We love the dynamic duo in the Athletic Learning Center, and the SAC Executive Cabinet described you two as the perfect moms. So I think I think that's the ultimate comment or compliment.
I think it is. You know, especially for Jackie now, she was, you know, she said, I talked to her about that this morning. She said she's a real mom now. So she just got to practice with all the athletes first. But, you know, and that's the great part, that we benefit maybe, because sometimes while the coaches have to be a little bit harder on them, you know, hold them to the standard, we get to come in and be a little bit softer and just support them. And anytime there's a message, I'm like, they prefer it to come from Jackie or I, or if there's, sometimes we'll get the visits of, okay, I have a problem or this happened, but you don't have to go tell your coach yet. So you could come in and tell us and we'll help you through it. And I think a big part, I listened to the DIN discussion and I found it interesting, but it's, for us, it's okay, something went wrong. We just replan, you know, take a step back and we replan. And that's really what we want our students to know, that we set a plan for you if things happen, you know, classes go well, classes don't go well, you know, especially right now with the distance learning setup, everything is so close to timelines. You know, you could miss that timeline by 2 minutes and the paper is not accepted. And we have to recover from that. But a big thing we stress is, if you come in and tell us, it's not that you're in trouble. Because if students think they're going to be in trouble, then they're going to not say anything. And we're like, you're not. Whatever it is, just let us know and we'll help you, we'll fix it, and we'll keep planning. Because that's one thing that comes up with students and obstacles, where one thing can go bad and it can snowball, and then all of a sudden, you know, you don't want to be at school anymore, or you don't want to do the class. But it's, how do we recover? And that's where Jackie and I really focus our effort on, is, you know, retention. Keep going, keep moving forward. We have to do the class again. We have to do the class again. And we just keep going from there. But knowing that we're there to help them, support them, and, you know, we get the benefit of not having to ever yell at anybody. We let the coaches do that.
Exactly. You know, and Loren, I think you just touched on a very important point, is retention, retention, retention. That's been our focus ever since the you know, first happened in March. Crazy to think now it's been, you know, 9-10 months.
I know.
So, but you know, part of that retention is keeping these student athletes involved, not only academically, but with opportunities within one another. And that's really one of the goals that the Student Athlete Advisory Council has, and you are a major part of that group. Describe your experience with SAC and what do you hope to continue to accomplish with that group?
Gotcha. So when I was an athlete, I was a member of the Scout Council at Northridge. So that was my experience for it coming in. When I came to RCC, they had developed a SAC Council that was going very well. And I really wanted to become a part of it and help, because for us, since we are a central location for all the teams, it was another area where we could interact with all of the athletes. But we also wanted to have a way to interact with the athletes that wasn't just business. It's not just about classes or transfer or something that we would discuss in an appointment, a way to relate to them and work together. So we had moved the SAC meetings into the Athletic Learning Center when we had our new location. And then I became one of the advisors of the student club. And so we really work, it's a leadership opportunity. So we ask for representatives from every program to come be involved. All student athletes, all students are welcome to come join the club, but we really ask to have 2 members from each team come in and attend our meetings. And really it's an opportunity for them to voice concerns of their team, as well as hear messages from the athletics department, from the college, and really share that communication different from it just coming from the coaches. And then it's also a great area where student athletes are a large part of all college cultures, all engagement with the community, especially at the NCAA level, you become a really strong image of the college. So that's something that we focus on, is the students that select or asked by their coaches to represent their programs on SAC are becoming the face and the voice of their program. So they represent for different areas in the community and on campus that we're asked to participate in. So that might be student events, community events, college forums that we're asked to have students go participate. Our SAC representatives can go and represent the department and their program. So that's a big part of it. It's also a leadership opportunity. And then if they're choosing to be recruited, it's a great thing because they can tell a school, especially NCAA school that has a SAC, I'm a SAC representative. I'm willing to give my time beyond practice, beyond school, to do good and be involved and be a voice and stand up for my peers and really be a contributing member. And that's a big part of it. See, and in part for me, I really wanted to get involved is I've been through it. You graduate college and you may not have all the internships that a non-athlete might have. So this is another area where you can put on your resume, like I have leadership skills different than just being a team captain or being on a team, that you work with others, manage projects, take on causes. And so it gives athletes all of those opportunities, as well as just having a way to come in and interact. It was great listening to your DIN discussion because, we had 4 different teams represented by those 5 athletes. And so those might be athletes that wouldn't really interact with one another if it wasn't for SAC, but now they can come together and interact. RCC has great events like Halloween Town, Bunny Hop. Those are always a favorite because they're directed for, kids in the community. And we have all these different athletes that come together. And when the community gets involved and they get to interact, it's really fun to see the little kids, and Nico, you've been there for it, find out like you play baseball, like you play volleyball, like that's what you do in school. And the kids get so excited, even if it's just reading to kids, but it shows them the importance of giving back, of being involved. And that's what our goal with SAC is. We've had to adjust now that we don't get to meet on campus. And our athletes really voiced that they wanted to turn this year and our meetings into opportunities to hear from other past athletes. So they've done a great job. We've been bringing in speakers just to share what the experience is like. And I thought it was important to let them know you can't play right now, but it's not over. You're going to come back, you're going to play, and then you're going to have a lot of opportunities after that. And that's what our speaker series right now is focusing on, letting them know might be, a downtime, but it's going to get better. And there will be a point where maybe you don't play anymore, but that doesn't mean it's over. There's all kinds of different areas you can get involved in and still stay connected to athletics.
Yeah, the involvement piece is huge, especially in the community. You've done a great job fostering that environment, and those kids who represent SAC are really exemplary student athletes, and they represent not only SAC but our programs very well. So great job with that group, and that it's really taken off. It's really taken off.
Thank you.
Loren, this has been a great discussion. I want to end it on this note. It's an interesting time for these student athletes. Obviously, you know, we're dealing with the pandemic. We just went through an election. There's just a lot on these kids' minds, and they're having to deal with a lot. What's one piece of advice you could hand down to an incoming student athlete or a student in general in order to be successful during this time?
Gotcha. So I would say to an incoming athlete, the biggest thing I could say looking back is enjoy your time. Enjoy your love of your sport, your love of your game. You may be off right now, you don't get to practice, you don't get to play as much, but it'll come back and you'll have those few years. So I always tell students when they come in and they're not sure, like, I don't know if I want to play, I don't know if I don't, they go back and forth on that and I think, you know, are you ready to give it up, or do you want to keep going? And I would tell anyone, play as long as you can, enjoy it. The rest of life will always be there. And then to any student right now, you know, it's different and it's tough. And we all know that, you know, and we're in the same way where, you know, Nico, you and I have been home for 9 months still working. I couldn't really imagine what it would be like to graduate high school and then just stay home and do everything on the computer. But do the best you can. You know, if it's really hard, if the subject's hard and you just can't do it online, that doesn't mean that you can't do it all together. You know, it might be tough right now, but stick with it, do the best you can. You know, we'll get back on campus and that will be a different opportunity. You know, that's my biggest message to anyone who's struggling or says they don't like it right now, it might be tough. Just know it's not you. It's the environment that we're in, and we're going to work together, and then we'll get a better setup, and that will give you a whole different experience. We just have to wait a little bit longer until we get to that.
Patience is a virtue. I completely agree with that, Loren. And thank you again for joining me. This has been the 11th episode of the Den Discussions featuring educational advisor guru Loren Overbo and the leader of the Athletic Learning Center. Loren, it's been truly a pleasure working with you since I've been on campus at RCC. You represent our program so well, and it's such a valuable resource, and what you provide really is, you know, second to none. The coaches appreciate it, the administration appreciates it, and the college appreciates it too. So keep doing what you're doing. It's been fantastic.
Thank you, Nico. Thank you for your support and for everybody who works with us. And it takes a whole crew, a whole squad to make this happen. And we have a great one. So I just get the benefit of being in the engagement center with the students all the time.
Perfect. And we look forward to seeing you again face to face. But in the meantime, stay safe, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, Loren, take care.
Bye.